When I first saw the house on Ashburn Lane, I thought I'd found a miracle. The rent was impossibly cheap for a two-story place with a yard. The agent told me the owner had moved overseas and wanted someone to keep the place occupied. I didn't ask many questions. I was desperate to move out of my cramped apartment and into somewhere quiet. The house looked clean enough, though I did notice the faint scent of smoke in the air. The realtor shrugged and said the neighbors liked their bonfires. Why first night there was calm. Too calm. The neighborhood was silent, like everyone had vanished after sunset. When I stepped outside to take a smoke before bed, the entire street was dark except for a single flickering porch light 2 houses down. It buzzed faintly in the stillness. I remember thinking it felt like the kind of place people disappear in, but I laughed it off and went to bed. That night, I woke to a sound that made my blood run cold. Footsteps above me. Slow, dragging ones. But the house only had one floor and an attic I hadn't checked yet. I stayed still, listening. The sound stopped, then came again, closer this time, as if pacing right over my bed. I turned on the lamp, expecting to hear mice in the ceiling, but the bulb flickered and went out completely. By morning, everything seemed fine. I convinced myself it was old house noises. But while unpacking in the kitchen, I found something strange, a charred photograph tucked behind the refrigerator. It showed a family of 4 standing in front of my house, but their faces were blurred, melted by heat. Only the father's hand, gripping a cigarette, remained untouched. That evening, a knock came at my door. When I opened it, no one was there, only the faint smell of smoke and a footprint of ash on the porch. Few days later, I met the woman who lived across the street, Mrs. Lang. She must have been in her 70s, with sharp eyes that didn't blink enough. When I introduced myself, she didn't shake my hand. "You're staying in the Burnell house," she said flatly. "They told me someone might come." I asked what she meant, but she only muttered, "You should keep your windows closed after midnight." That night, I remembered her words when I heard scratching at the back window. I thought it was an animal until I saw the shape of fingers, long, thin, and human, tapping against the glass in a steady rhythm. When I turned on the light, the tapping stopped, and nothing was there. I tried to find out more the next morning. I asked around the few houses nearby, but people either ignored me or said they didn't know who had lived there before. Mrs. Lang was the only one who spoke, though even she avoided eye contact. "The Bennells had a fire," she said. "A bad one. The house was rebuilt. But you can't rebuild what's left behind." That phrase stuck with me. That night, the tapping returned, this time at my bedroom window. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. I didn't dare move. When I finally did, I saw the faint outline of a face reflected in the glass, dark eyes and a mouth that didn't move. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone, leaving a single black handprint on the outside of the pane. I cleaned it in the morning. The print didn't come off. The noises above my bed grew worse. Some nights it sounded like someone dragging a chair across the attic floor. Other times, it was whispers, too faint to make out, but always there. I finally decided to go up there, thinking maybe raccoons had gotten in. The attic door was in the hallway ceiling, and when I pulled the cord, dust and soot rained down. The ladder creaked under my weight as I climbed. The smell hit me before I reached the top. Burned wood and something sour, like old rot. The space was small, full of cobwebs and broken furniture. But near the center was a circle of blackened wood, as if something had been set on fire directly on the floorboards. I found more photographs in a metal tin nearby, all partially burned. The same family appeared in every one. In the last photo, their faces were gone completely, replaced by streaks of black soot. Written on the back were the words, "We're still here." That night, the noises stopped for the first time in weeks. The silence was worse. I couldn't sleep. At around 2 a.m., I smelled smoke again, fresh this time. I ran to the attic, thinking something had caught fire, but when I opened the hatch, cold air rushed down instead. Inside, the circle of burnt wood was glowing faintly, and in the center of it sat the tin box, closed. When I opened it again, the photographs were gone. The next morning, Megan convinced herself she'd overreacted. Cruises had security cameras, trained staff, and plenty of people around. Surely she wasn't in any real danger. Still, as she made her way to the breakfast buffet, she couldn't shake the memory of the slow, deliberate knock on her door. The corridor outside her cabin seemed longer than usual, lined with identical doors that gave no hint of the people behind them. Two uniformed crew members passed her, speaking softly in a language she didn't recognize. As they walked by, she noticed one of them glancing over his shoulder at her. Not just a quick glance, but a long, assessing look, as though measuring her reaction. Breakfast should have been a comfort. Sunlight pouring through panoramic windows, the clatter of plates, the smell of coffee and fresh pastries. But Megan's attention kept snagging on small details. A waiter refilling water glasses seemed to be lingering at her table just a beat too long. A young couple at the next table whispered rapidly to each other and kept glancing toward the entrance. And when she finally stood to leave, she caught sight of the man from the night before, the one in the dark suit, seated alone near the back. His hands were folded neatly on the table, his plate untouched. He didn't blink when their eyes met. This time, Megan didn't wait to see if he would vanish. She turned and left. She decided to spend the afternoon exploring the ship. Deck 7 had several quiet lounges and a library that smelled faintly of old paper despite the ocean air. In the library, she struck up a brief conversation with an older British woman named Helen, who was knitting in the corner. When Megan mentioned seeing a man in a dark suit, Helen's needles paused mid-click. Tall, thin, doesn't eat? Helen asked, her voice low. I've seen him too. 3 years ago, on this very ship. Different cruise. He was watching people then as well. Before Megan could ask more, another passenger entered, and Helen's demeanor instantly brightened, as if she hadn't said anything at all. That evening, Megan noticed a change in the ship's atmosphere. The wind picked up, rattling the glass doors on the outer decks. The hallways seemed dimmer, shadows stretching farther than they should. She passed a security camera mounted above the stairwell and had the sudden, irrational feeling that it wasn't connected to anything at all. Back in her cabin, she locked the door and tried to distract herself with a movie on the tiny wall-mounted TV. Halfway through, the screen flickered, briefly showing what looked like live footage of the ship's exterior decks at night. In the grainy image, a lone figure stood at the railing, unmoving, staring out at the sea. She shut off the TV, her heart pounding. The ship's engines throbbed beneath her feet, steady and relentless. But she couldn't shake the growing sense that the ocean majesty wasn't just carrying her across the Caribbean. It was carrying something else, something that didn't belong among the living. I moved out 2 days later. Mrs. Lang didn't say goodbye. She only watched from her porch, shaking her head. I rented a small apartment in the city, told myself I'd forget everything. But I couldn't sleep for weeks. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that burned face staring at me, mouthless, whispering words I couldn't hear. Months passed. One night, as I sat watching TV, I caught a whiff of something I hadn't smelled in a long time: smoke. My heart froze. I checked the stove, the wiring, everything. Nothing. But when I looked toward the hallway mirror, I saw a movement behind me, a man's silhouette, standing perfectly still. I turned around. No one was there. The next morning, my landlord called. He said the old house on Ashburn Lane had burned down overnight. Total loss. Fire department found no cause. Strange thing, he said. There was a photo found in the ashes, looked like you. That night, I barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I woke to the faint tapping of fingers on my bedroom window. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. I didn't move. I couldn't. Slowly, the smell of smoke filled the room. When I finally looked toward the window, I saw it. A black handprint, fresh against the glass. And this time, it was inside.